Hey there, Teddy Rumpskin here. Yeah.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
Hey there, Teddy Rumpskin here. And I just found this crazy fucking thing. This VHS tape at the local thrift store for like 50 cents. It's Bruce Lee's Greatest Revenge. Like, wow, I never heard of this movie before. What the fuck? Well, the reason I haven't heard about it is because it's not really Bruce Lee. No, it's Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee. There's only one E in that name, right? He's not Bruce Lee. He's a Bruce Lee imitator. Yeah, that guy is not really Bruce Lee. No. Because Bruce Lee died really young. And he kind of left a void, right? That had to be filled with somebody. So there was a bunch of people willing to jump in his fucking grave, right? Guys like this guy. And there was also a guy with Bruce Lee, had an I in his name, and there were a bunch of other Bruce Lee imitators that popped out in the fucking scene doing Bruce Lee knockoff movies. In fact, one of Jackie Chan's early breakout roles was in a movie called The New Fist of Fury, where he basically tried to, fill in Bruce Lee's shoes, right? Because Bruce Lee is the greatest kung fu movie star of all time. And possibly one of the greatest movie stars of all time. Because, there have been lots of movie stars that have died young, but there weren't a bunch of people just jumping into his fucking shoes trying to tell people that they were him. You know what I mean? When James Dean died, there weren't a bunch of other people claiming to be James Dean popping up, I mean, you could only kind of compare it to Elvis, I guess. When Elvis died, then a bunch of Elvis impersonators popped up, but those Elvis impersonators weren't trying to tell you that they actually were Elvis or tricking you into thinking that Elvis was actually playing live somewhere because everybody knew he was dead. But with movies, they can try and get away with that shit. They're actually trying to pull the wool over your eyes. They're trying to trick you into thinking that this movie, Bruce Lee's Greatest Revenge, is actually a movie that stars Bruce Lee. Definitely not a Bruce Lee movie, but it's definitely trying to trick you into thinking that it's a Bruce Lee movie. I mean, on the back of the box, it says, "Join Mr. Lee as he plunges fist first into a deadly rivalry between power-hungry union boss," like the big boss, right? And mistreated dock workers under his rule. Armed only with his bare fists of fury, he begins a campaign of bone-crunching and assault against the Union that soon escalates into full-scale war and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, the truth is that this movie, Bruce Lee's Greatest Revenge, is alternately titled Way of the Dragon 2. Yeah, it's supposed to be a sequel to that movie, Way of the Dragon, where Bruce Lee fought Chuck Norris. Yeah. So what, is this movie also going to have like a hairy ginger guy pretending to be Chuck Norris too? No. Well, because Bruce Lee fucking killed Chuck Norris at the end of that movie, so wouldn't make any sense for his character to come back, but yeah. I mean, it's not really that bad that they made a sequel to a Bruce Lee movie that didn't really have Bruce Lee in it. Van Damme made a bunch of movies that they made sequels to that Van Damme wasn't in, like Bloodsport 2. He wasn't in Cyborg 2, or Kickboxer 2, or Time Cop 2, right? But none of those movies claim that Van Damme was in them. Like if Rob Van Dam was in Kickboxer 2, claiming to be Van Damme. That would be a bit of a knockoff, or... actually, that might be kind of cool. But no. This movie, it claims to actually have Bruce Lee in it, and that's kind of a ripoff. And the movie is seriously bad. I mean, even the film quality is really low in this fucking film. It's just a lot of generic fighting around, even though the Bruce Lee guy, who's not really Bruce Lee, does a pretty good Bruce Lee. He looks a little bit like him, and he's got similar moves. He does a pretty good job. Ripping off Bruce Lee's style and shit. Beating up guys, and that's what most of the movie is. Just a bunch of fight scenes and shit. Right? And, a highlight of the movie, though, is that Bruce Lee actually fights Bolo Yang. or Yang, or yeah, Bolo Yang, who you might recognize from Bloodsport. Yeah, he's a bad guy from Bloodsport. And he was also in Enter the Dragon. Right? This guy was actually in actual Bruce Lee movies, and here he is fighting a fake Bruce Lee. Yeah. I mean, I love this guy. He's fucking huge. He's awesome. And his fight scene with Bruce Lee is probably the highlight of the whole fucking film. But he's not the final boss. No, he's not the final bad guy. He's just one of the thugs he fights along the way. He fights some other guy. That's the final bad guy in the movie, but yeah, the highlight is him fighting Bolo again. Yeah, that's it. This movie here, this fucking movie, Bruce Lee's Greatest Revenge, also known as Way of the Dragon 2, is really a shitty movie. Not really recommending anybody check it out. Not really. But it is an interesting fucking thing to find. You know what I mean? Anyway, till fucking next time, keep it real.